This video is going to walk through the skill that's known as rationalizing the denominator. And the basic property, if I have a fraction with a radical in the denominator, this is equivalent to the expression that's presented here. And then the other property that I need to keep in mind is if I have a radical and I multiply it times itself, I just simply get the radicand. So these are the two skills that you will need. Let's look at a problem like number 4. So number 4, this could be simplified as 1 over 7. And 1 over 7 is the square root of 1 over the square root of 7. The square root of 1 is 1, and then radical 7 remains radical 7. A fraction is considered not completely simplified if a radical or if an irrational square root remains in its denominator. So this skill is going to remove the square root of 7 from the denominator and make the denominator a rational number. So in order to make that happen, I'm going to multiply by that denominator over itself, which is really just multiplying by 1. And now when I do my multiplication straight across, I end up with radical 7. And then the square root of 7 times itself is just the integer 7. So if I were to put these two expressions in a calculator, I would get the same decimal result. It's just that one expression is considered not simplified, and the other expression is considered to be completely simplified in reduced radical form. Let's look at number 6. Let's do number 6 together. So in number 6, underneath the radical, this simplifies to 1/3, which I would then break into two pieces. The square root of 1 over the square root of 3, which is going to be 1 over radical 3. So in order to write this so that the denominator is a rational number, I'm going to multiply by radical 3 over itself. And that's going to give me the square root of 3 over the integer 3. And we will talk about the theory behind this in class. But the skill itself is to just rewrite this expression so that the denominator becomes a rational number as opposed to an irrational number underneath the radical. And next I would like to move to the pizzazz, which is page 17. And I didn't scan this, so I'm just going to copy a few of the problems. So this is actually page 17, or this pizzazz 213 rather. And let's look at letter S. Letter S is radical 3 over 7. So I would take this and I would break it into two pieces, and then I would multiply by just the denominator, radical 7 over radical 7. And then multiplying straight across, I'm going to get the square root of 21 over the rational number 7. And that would be my simplified answer. And if you look at the bottom of the page, you'll be able to find that answer. Let's do another one together. Let's look at letter A in the second column. So here I have the square root of 10 over 3 times the square root of 9 over 5. So I'm going to just go ahead and combine this one big product. I have 90 over 15, and I could simplify that. That actually just simplifies down to the square root of 6. So I really don't even need to rationalize the denominator in that, since that's going to simplify up like that. Let's look at something like letter R instead. Here's letter R. Okay, and the letter R, I've got radical 3 over 5 times radical 1 over 10. So if I give myself one big radical, this is radical 3 over 50. So I could break this into pieces, radical 3 over radical 50, and then to rationalize the denominator, and then I would have the square root of 150 over the rational number 50. So my denominator is now the rational number, and I would take the numerator and I would clean that up. So 150 is 25 times 6 that's over 50. So I'm going to have 5 radical 6 over 50, and then I simplify, take away the common factor on the outside, and I'm simply left with the square root of 6 over 10. So that's my skill, rewriting that product, rationalizing the denominator. So once again, if I were to put this in my calculator, and then if I were to put this in my calculator, I would get the same decimal answer, but the skill is to rewrite the fraction with the radicals so that you have no radicals remaining in the denominator. And let's do one more from the third column. Let's do a mixed number. So let's look at t. So here I have 2 2/3 under the radical, and I'm going to multiply that times 1 1/5. So I'm going to go ahead and make improper fractions. So 3 times 2 is 6 plus 2, this is 8/3 times 6 over 5. And then I'm just going to carry on as I did before. 8 times 6 is 48. 3 times 5 is 15. So I'm going to go ahead and break that up. Radical 48 over radical 15. And I'm going to express this so that I don't have that radical in the denominator. So radical 15 over itself. And that's going to give me under one big radical, 48 times 15 over the rational number 15. And I'm going to stop the video here and ask you to simplify the numerator, which we all have the skills to do that. The only new skill now is involving the denominators with the radical sign in the denominator.